Just because I'm a winemaker doesn't mean I have to be a critic all the time.
Oh, this is fun and it's beautiful. You do it because you love it. And if you don't love it unconditionally and stupidly, and you're not crazy passionate about it, you won't last.
You know, to stay out of the vineyard, I only have the shotgun for the bore, and I'm thinking, great.
Turning sugar into alcohol is not really rocket science.
You think your car depreciates quickly. Don't hold a candle to what barrels do.
A lot of people don't realize Sonoma County is 1 million acres. Makes us about the size of Rhode Island as a state.
I mean, in my youth, my first couple of vintages, the crazy part was being lucky we were alive still.
The really cool thing about wine is it swims in the stream of history and civilization and everything else.
I worked 14 hours the day before I went into labor. I was determined to get most of that Chardonnay in.
We say, so drink the wine. That's kind of our motto here at Life Between the Vines. One of the cool things about wine, besides drinking it, is the people you drink it with. And the stories you hear and tell with wine all come together to make every bottle unique. Discovering and tasting wine shouldn't be a homework assignment. And we believe that the people who are closest to wine have the best stories. So open a bottle.
And welcome to podcast number 209. This week we feature Randy and Char Lange of LangeTwins Winery in Lodi, California. You've heard us talk about wine and family before, but LangeTwins Winery in Lodi, California is the very definition of a family wine business. Randy and Brad Lange are the twins, and both families are part of the winery operation. Roots in farming go way back for the brothers. Randy and his wife Char visited the LBTV studios here in Milwaukee back in October to give us a little glimpse into the LangeTwins family winery.
We're here at the Life Between the Vines recording studios in Milwaukee, and this is great. We have a couple of visitors in today. We have Randy and Char Lange of LangeTwins Winery. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Well, it's good I know who you are. That feels pretty good. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very good.
Very well.
Good. It's great to have you both here. I appreciate you taking the time coming to the stormy, cold, rainy, well, it's not that cold out yet today, is it?
No, not really.
Hey, the leaves are all turned colors. They're beautiful.
Which is very different than Lodi, California right now.
Yeah, you really, do your leaves even turn?
Do
you have leaves?
Yeah, we have leaves.
Grape leaves.
Grape leaves, yeah. Well, the grape leaves turn beautiful. Yeah, I forgot about that. I was just thinking
But we need another month or so.
Yeah, right, which is nice. You guys luck out in that regard.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to Milwaukee, and you were saying this is your first trip here.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
So what do you think so far?
Well, we just arrived in Milwaukee, so far it's pretty good. We'll see what the next 30 or 40 minutes had to do for us.
Yeah,
we found you first, so.
Well, that's good.
Here we go.
And you saw a freeway pretty much, I mean.
Yeah, pretty much.
The hotel.
I hope you enjoyed. Are you here for a few days or?
No, actually, we're still harvesting in Lodi, so we've come in to do a couple events like this one here, and tonight we have a wine dinner, and then tomorrow morning on a plane back to Lodi, finish up harvest.
Yeah, I'm almost a little surprised. That really has to be tough for you to get away during this time of year.
Well, there's a big family back in Lodi where we are called Lange Twins for a reason, and because I do have a twin brother, and between our family and his family, there's 5 kids. So it works, and we have lots of people there to pick up the weight of the work. So yeah. This gives us a little relief from harvest.
Oh, I got to believe, yeah. When did you guys start early like a lot of other places?
Very early. This is the second time that we've started in the month of July.
You started in July?
Yes, in the third week of July we do a sparkling wine cuvee for a client of ours, which means that the grapes are harvested at very low maturity rates, so it came in early. And it's also going to be our longest harvest because we're still harvesting, and here we are the 11th or 12th of October. So
you're looking at 5 months almost.
It's pretty long period of time for us.
Wow.
Usually a little shorter than this, but it is what it is.
So what do you think? What's harvest looking like for 2000?
Harvest was really ideal for us in our area. It was cool throughout. That's why we have such an elongated harvest, because the varietals came in separately for a change, where they're not piling on top of each other. So that meant we were able to really virtually pick a varietal clean and move into the next one, move into the next one. So it's just like a rolling wave into the season. There are seasons where it seems like everything ripens up at the very same time, and so then there's no opportunity to really get it all in when we want to get it in. This has been, other than for the length of harvest, It's been a fairly even harvesting period of time.
Well, what you'd hope for, I would think, right?
Yeah, it is. It is what we hope for. We don't get it often. I mean, Mother Nature hands us a new deck of cards every single year, and we have to adjust.
That's right. Well, that's what the magic is about winemaking.
Exactly. Exactly.
Just want to get an idea of how many wines are you making, how many types of wines are you making?
We make quite a few different types of wines. We grow 24, 25 different varietals. We make pretty much all those different varietals into wine. A lot of them are what I call spice rack wines, which we use for blending purposes. But, I mean, if you were to really get to the main wines, there's the Cabernet, Chardonnays, Sauvignon Blancs, Merlots, Zinfandels of the marketing world. But along with that are the Malbecs and the Syrahs, the Petit Verdot's, the Tralgados, those type of wines as well that we make.
Any dessert wines as well, late harvest?
We do a Muscat, or a Moscato. It's Muscat made from Muscat Canelli. And that one would be really the only sweet wine that we do.
We were talking about history a little while ago, and you're a native Californian.
Yes.
And Char, you're from Michigan.
I'm an import from Michigan.
An import. Well, there's a lot of great wine in Michigan being made these days.
There are, absolutely.
Can't quite compare to California, but they're doing a good job there.
Yep. Every state in the union has a wine industry.
That's right. Pretty amazing.
It is.
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing for the industry overall myself.
It works. And, I mean, we like traveling the way we do. We're promoting LangeTwins, but we also promote wine consumption. And so when you go into states, we always try the wines from that particular state and see how they're doing and, educate ourselves as to what's going on.
That's a great idea. I think it's smart to do that because it's not just the idea of keeping up on competition, but it is getting a full picture of what's going on in the country.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So, Char, any kind of a wine background in your family as you grew up in Michigan? And again, what town? What part
Chelsea.
of Michigan? Okay, and which was in the southern...
Near Ann Arbor, home of Jeff Daniels. There you go. We all went to school together. We had wine, of course, when we were... sick, blackberry brandy, that when Dad would pull it out. But no, we weren't a big wine family at all.
You're always curious about what people's backgrounds are.
Yeah, I'm an ag major from Michigan State, but I had a crops and animals background. So when I came out to California and I saw the grapevines, they looked like trees, like the cherry trees up in Traverse.
Sure.
So that was kind of a big shock.
In fact, she called them great trees.
Yeah, I thought they were just grape trees, but they're vines. And I'm going, no, they're not vines, they're trees. So yeah, it was a... Well, that's when they were all head pruned. I mean, everything, that was before mechanical harvesting in the 70s. And now everything's on trellis system on the wire, so it's totally different environment.
So how did the two of you meet?
Oh, you don't want to hear that story.
Quick story, I'll give the short version.
Better.
My dad in Michigan worked for Massey Ferguson Tractor Company.
Sure.
We had a small farm and then he was transferred out to California for 1 year. And because he was Western Division Manager of that area. So Randy and I met in 6th grade in Lodi.
Get out of here.
Yes,
yeah, for
and
sure.
then I moved back, and we were pen pals for 12 years. And then I was an IFE, International Farm Youth Exchange, in Greece for a year plus. And so when I came back, Randy said, well, do you want to come out and visit? And I said, sure. We came out, we saw each other for 3 days, and decided to get married. That was it.
That is really, without a doubt,
Crazy.
one of the best stories ever.
Yeah, it was crazy.
No, but there's a better part to the story. There's a better part.
And
because
we got married.
we got married.
Yeah, so
but
that was smart.
Yes.
But one of the men that my dad worked with was named Chuck Greenwood, and Chuck Greenwood's daughter, Susan, they took my dad's place. Susan married Randy's twin, Brad.
Oh, how weird.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's getting a little creepy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I knew Susan and her family before Randy and Brad knew Susan. Yeah, that's crazy.
Amazing. What a great story.
And we've been married
Meant to be.
43 years now.
Congratulations.
Meant to be.
Let's talk about the winery itself then. So you it's called LangeTwins because you have a brother, and is he identical? I'm just curious.
We are identical.
I have to remember that if I meet you on the street and he looks at me like I have no idea who
Yeah,
you are.
that's
You wouldn't
been
know
known
the
to
difference.
happen.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah.
But no, we're actually a farm family. And all my life, I've been a farmer all my life. And in fact, our family immigrated to the Lodi region in about 1870. So as a farm family in Lodi, we were one of the original families in the area. Started growing grapes for a living in the early 1900s. Then they had this little experiment called Prohibition that kind of put a kibosh to some of that going on for a period of time. Yeah, it wasn't good. But after the repeal of Prohibition, then our family started to get back into the wine growing business, and been into it ever since that period of time.
How did they survive during Prohibition? What were they doing?
Planted other crops, watermelons in particular, but they planted other crops. They also continued to farm grapes, but for fresh market. So for either table grape eating or, in particular, out of the Lodi region, the Zinfandel was continued to be raised. It was packed fresh and then shipped to the New York and Boston markets where even during Prohibition it was legal to make a couple hundred gallons of family wines, and that's what they did.
It's, a lot of Americans don't think about this idea. Okay, well, you just stop selling booze and stop making booze, and, then what do you do? Yeah. And it's amazing how many winemaking families, because so much of the industry was then, as it is today, made up of families.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. What do you do?
Yeah, you adjust. Yeah, you had no choice. But there was, like I said, a lot of shipment of grapes that was going on at that period of time. That's what brought out the folks like the Sebastianis and like the Mondavis in particular. Sure. Cesar Mondavi came out to Lodi, and he came out to Lodi particularly to pack Zinfandel and ship it back to the New York market, and that's how we survived Prohibition.
So what year did you start LangeTwins with your brother?
LangeTwins, we started in 1974.
Oh, you go back then.
We started a family business with my older brother and father, which didn't take too long when Brad and I, as twins, we were a natural pair. We've been together all our lives, basically, other than the 4 years that we spent in college, separate colleges. We've been together. So the dynamics really required us to get out on our own, which we did in 1974, put our wives to work someplace else so we could afford to farm, our hobby of farming, and started a management company where we would manage absentee owners and started to take the profits from that company and buy land for our own vineyard operation. And that's how we started. We also had a great leg up or opportunity when Bob Mondavi came back to Lodi from Napa, started his Robert Mondavi, Woodbridge by Robert Mondavi brand in the late 70s. We were one of the first growers for that operation, and we just kind of hooked up to the Mondavi Woodbridge brand train and grew with that program through the years.
Nice, good timing.
It was excellent timing. We owe a lot to the Mondavi family.
That's nice. Well, I think the industry owns a lot to them.
I totally agree with that, yeah.
I could easily say he inspired me, too, when I got a love of wine.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he came into Lodi when we were wine grape growers for other wineries. And over the years, that need to share, that need to promote education within the grower community, he created what I consider, what I am and been for quite a while now, a wine grower. A wine grower's responsibility does not end at the scale house. It ends the next year when we're tasting the wines that we grew the previous year. And that was what Bob Mondavi created. And we owe him a lot for that.
It's nice to see people pay that tribute, a well-deserved tribute. And it's also
absolutely
nice to see the family out on its own, despite all their issues they might have, all of them out with their roots. So many different labels, so much work going on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's great.
Without question.
What was the year of your first vintage?
Our first vintage as a winery was 2005. We built the winery in 2005. We built the winery, and there's a lot of people ask this question: is why? Why would we build a winery? Well, the reason is because we have 5 children. Not that we were looking to employ our children, but we also knew that if we wanted to have the vineyards that we have had in our family operation for years and years, generations, that we really had to find a way to add value to the farm gate. And the only way you really add value to the farm gate of wine growing is you have to make a wine, you have to put it in a bottle, you have to put your name on that bottle, and then you have to go out into the market and develop consumers. But when you develop consumers, you're developing a one-on-one relationship, and you're not depending on other wineries to do the business for you. I grew wine grapes for a number of wineries over the years. We sold it as fresh fruit. Today, we're selling it as wine.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it does add value to the farm gate.
Yeah, I bet it does. I might be putting the cart before the horse, but are any of your children involved in the business these days?
All the kids are involved?
All 5 kids
All
from
5
both
kids.
families.
Wow.
They're either on the vineyard side or the winery side.
We're a 9-member family business.
That's pretty impressive.
And generational. They're the 5th generation.
Yeah.
And really, the winery itself is really an investment in those generations. And when I say that, I mean the 6th, 7th, and 8th generation as well. We feel that as time goes down the road and we introduce our wines to more and more consumers, that we're really building a base for our great-grandchildren. Yeah. And that means the vineyards that we grow, that we are really honored to grow in the Lodi region, will remain vineyards instead of some other use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like tract housing or something
Yes.
like that. Don't want to see that happen. What are the ages of your kids?
40 is our oldest is 40. It's our daughter, and then we have a son that's 37 and another son that's 35. And my twin brother, has a son that's 37 and a daughter that's 35. So they're all in their 30s. Except our daughter just kind of spoiling the whole scene by turning 40. So anyway,
Well, I think it's important with the kids to recognize that as twin parents, we live next door to each other. We're our only neighbors in the middle of a vineyard. And so the kids grew up as a pod.
Yeah.
They grew up under really 2 roofs that were combined as one. And so they have a very, very tight and close relationship. They vacation together, they hike together, they ski together. They still do things as their next generation with their kids now together. So there's a real good synergy between those children, and it works.
They often ate together because they would check in who was having what for dinner. Sometimes you'd have 2 kids, sometimes you'd have 5 kids. Sometimes you'd have 0 kids, depending on what was being served for the evening.
Yeah, when you're having the good stuff, you want to make sure you're over there.
Yes, always.
Cool. That's
Always.
neat. I mean, obviously, your kids know the difference between
Oh,
which
yeah,
dad
for
is
sure.
which. You get used to that. But in the industry, I mean, does that get a little bit difficult for some?
Well, it was a bit at times a struggle, only because of twins. He's been the very best of partners, and the reason I say that is because I never looked over his shoulder, and he never looked over mine. We separated our business into areas of responsibility, and we got together on the big decisions, and everything else was done individually. So that meant that we also spread out our volunteer work within the industry. So I ended up really handling our volunteer work with the association statewide and nationally, and my twin brother did the local, county, city relationships. So we ended up with 2 different groups of associates, of whom never met the other twin. Yeah. And so there's been times when people walk away a bit offended, and I kind of look at them and say, "Oh, okay," and I try to get up to them and say, I really don't know who you are, but I'm Randy Lange, and I think you know my twin brother, Brad. Oh, and they light up, and they're so excited. They say, "Oh, I thought for a minute there that you were Brad, and you were ignoring me completely." But that's happened. But we got into the habit of really getting involved with a new group of people, say, "By the way."
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good thing. Well, and it is not only that, because you're in an industry where you are meeting so many different people. You're meeting consumers. I imagine when people come by, and maybe you're in the tasting room, maybe you're around, "Oh, hey, Randy," and they're looking like, "How do they know me?" It puts you in a really strange situation, too.
Yeah, you get used to it, though.
Yeah,
Well,
I guess you do.
we had a situation in Texas where we were going to a big wine dinner that we had coordinated, and the chef we knew very well. And so at the last minute, Randy couldn't go. So we had to send him down to another meeting. And so I go to Brad, and I said, "Brad, you got to come with me." And he goes, "Well, I'm not going." And I said, "Sweetheart, it says Lange twins. It doesn't say Lange triplets. You're the only one. You've got to go." So I drag him to Texas. We walk in, and the chef goes up and hugs Brad. And Brad goes, whoa, wait a minute. And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to tell you. I replaced the twin tonight. We had to switch." Yeah.
That's great. I'm sure boatloads of stories in that.
Oh, yeah. Forever.
Yeah, sure.
Forever.
How many acres are you farming? I'm not sure if we got that.
Well, we are, as a family, we farm about 1,400 acres that we own.
That's a lot of acres.
It is, but we also farm a lot more acres than that, because I said early when we put our wives to work, we started a management company. And that management company farmed for absentee property owners.
Sure.
And so over the years, we accumulated several clients that grew into the industry. So we farm just a shade under 8,000 acres of vineyard.
Well, I can see how you keep everybody busy.
We do keep everybody busy, that's for sure, and a whole lot more people. We have a lot of people we work with that make our business successful. We couldn't be successful without the people that we work with.
Are your wines estate, or do you also buy from other growers?
No, our wines are estate. And we grow in the two regions. We grow in the Lodi AVA, and we also grow in Clarksburg AVA. So which is 60-mile radius for us as far as farming is concerned. So we take our Muscat Canela that we talked about earlier, our Chardonnays, our Sauvignon Blancs can come out of the Delta region, but then our Cabernets and our Zinfandels and our Merlots and Malbecs and those type of things come out of the Lodi region.
One question I like to ask winery owners, all kinds of crazy things can happen. You can make big mistakes that can certainly have an expensive cost to them. But I mean, any funny story, any interesting story you could tell me, one you might think of? I'm sure you have hundreds of them, but...
Yeah, offhand. I mean, of course, every year is different, and so we always have to deal with different things that happen within the winery or within the vineyards themselves. I know this will upset my wife because Charlene does not like the snake stories that we seem to have, but we do grow vineyards in areas that there are rattlesnakes involved, which we have to be very careful with. In particular, when they're delivered to the winery, they can could be in the load. Usually we get them out of the loads because they come to the surface of the load, and then we're able to do that. Otherwise, we have sorting belts, and then we look for them there when we're doing particular ones. So it gets a bit exciting within the winery when we know that we're bringing loads in from a particular vineyard which has a particular problem with that. But these are things that you learn to deal with and learn to work within. So other than that, I mean, the horror story, of course, is somebody not setting up a hose correctly and putting red wine into a white tank. That never happens in a winery, of course not. Never does. But generally speaking, we try to keep all that kind of excitement as low as possible.
How about the parachute school that drops over the top of the vineyard?
Yeah, no, but we'll hold on that story.
Sounds like a good story. Well, that's one of those things, every winemaker has so many great stories because it's an interesting business and even more interesting as a family. And you operate a tasting room as well.
Yes.
You've got different facets of the business. You've got the vineyards, you've got the tasting room, which is its own animal. You've got the cellar. You got it's a lot going
Bottling
on.
line. Bottling line is another whole different business as well. So, there's things that go on within that, but you have to understand. In the winery, during fermentation, we produce a lot of CO2, which is very dangerous. So basically, we are very, very strict in safety protocols, and that way it does keep a lot of the excitement down. We don't enter tanks often, and it's usually off-season when we do just to inspect the tank. So those are the type of things that you have to be extremely careful about, and we have protocols that are absolutely cast in stone. And there are protocols that if you fail to follow the procedures of those particular protocols, you are no longer working for LangeTwins.
Sure, fail is a big word in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it is. So we that type of excitement is always trying to avoid at all costs, and we have avoided it. That.
Kind of a random question. I'm going to address this to you, Char. What do you like to drink? What's your favorite?
Rosé. Rosé all day.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes. Yes, and I learned in Seattle, they always say if it's a gray day, drink rosé. Oh. I mean, it's just perfect.
Oh, that makes, for especially.
No, we have a Sangiovese rosé that is just absolutely a whole home run. Absolutely home run. It's pink, it's brilliant, it's refreshing, and I have it without fail every night as soon as I come home. It's better than 2 Advil. It's just like wash the day away.
That's great. How about you, Randy?
I like all types of wine. I will start my evening off. This really sounds bad, but I do start my evening off with Sauvignon Blanc. I just like the freshness. You come in out of work. That's the first thing I do is I'll pour Charlene her rosé, and I'll pour me our Sauvignon Blanc. We do drink LangeTwins in our household,
We have a
all the
house
time.
palate.
But the Sauvignon Blanc is a Muscat clone Sauvignon Blanc. It's kind of a special wine. For us, it's also surly aged, so it has a nice creaminess to it that I really enjoy. But it's very fresh, nice acid on it. So, it's just a nice way to start the evening, and you get something fresh. And then I migrate, and I'll migrate into red wines in particular. I like all red wines. Zinfandel I'd be partial to the Zinfandel.
That makes sense.
So it does. But I'm very partial to Zinfandels that are made the old-fashioned way. And our Zinfandels are wines that I'd like to say my grandfather would recognize because it would be made in the same traditional way. Sure. So I think a lot of Zinfandels have progressed to a different level of winemaking, which I don't appreciate as much. So I do appreciate the Zinfandel as a red table wine.
We just had the Society for Environmental Journalists at the winery, and they were very early in the morning. So after they walked through the vineyards, they came in, and I set up this big, burrito display. I mean, we had all these burritos and baskets in Zinfandel, and they said, "Well, we can't drink this early." And I go, "Are you kidding me? Come on." And so we started, and it was amazing. Within 10 minutes, everybody's kind of relaxed. Sure. They're eating, drinking. It was good.
Well, I believe it was, speaking of Robert Mondavi, 20 minutes ago, he said that his mother used to put a little red wine in his espresso when he was young.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't heard that story, but I wouldn't doubt that story.
Evidently, he did it pretty much all his life, and I thought, I don't know if
Yeah.
that tastes so good, but it's not a bad idea. Again, it's part of the Americans' taboo when it comes to alcohol, which is so completely wrong.
Mm-hmm.
All our little babies that come to the table, they all get to stick their finger in the wine glass at night to taste. And as Bob would say, if you don't start these kids up early in smelling and learning the palates and the flavors, they can't become good winemakers. And believe me, we want some good winemakers.
And you learn to respect.
Yeah,
Yes.
they do.
Well, you teach it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you teach it by your own performance. And so the reality is I mean, you travel through Europe, and I recall a particular instant when I was by myself in a little bistro in France, and a family of 8 or 10 came in, sat down, and there were 5 or 6 little kids. I mean, little kids. And the first thing that happened is the carafe of wine came out, and everybody took a glass. And the little kids had a glass that was poured half full, and then water was followed with that. And so it was a blended wine. And they all sat down and they drank wine. And so I think, there's something to say about that, where you're teaching responsibility. We want to drink our wines with responsibility, but we also make our wines to go with food. I consider wine a food. And when it's a food, you have to respect the consumption, and that's what we're teaching. That's what we taught our children, and that's what we'll be teaching our grandchildren.
Well, and that's a very European attitude, that wine is food, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
Absolutely.
As I said a few minutes ago, you have a tasting room. For your tasting room, is it by appointment? Can people just come by and see you? How does that work?
No, it's open to the public. We're open from Thursday through Monday, from 12 to 5 o'clock every day. And so come during that time. If you've got a large group, give us a call, because then we can arrange a special. And our phone number is really pretty easy,
209-334-9780.
9780.
That's how easy it is. Call yourself.
Okay, say it again.
334-9780, area code 209.
Do you know how many times I
Or
actually dial that
1-800
number?
call Randy.
At least once is my guess. At
Yeah,
least
maybe once or twice. And besides, it's on automatic dial, right?
That's the worst part, because then you forget the number for that very reason.
No, but we do tours out in the vineyards, like for fun. We'll take people out on the carts out to the Sangiovese Rosé, and then actually drink the rosé in that vineyard.
Yeah.
So there's kind of understanding the relationship between what comes out of that vineyard and
without question, we like taking people out, and not only tours of the winery, tours of the vineyards. We have a very robust, sustainable program where we've been active for 25 to 30 years in sustainable growing. We were very, very instrumental in the establishment of Lodi rules, which is an industry-wide or district-wide sustainable program that actually are administered by a group out of Santa Cruz, California called Protected Harvest. And that we have certain criteria that we have to meet from growing from A to Z, from cover crops that we plant, how much water to use, what we pay the people we work with, all the way to what percentage biodiesel that we burn in our tractors. And if we meet the criteria, we get the we get the certification, and so all our wines are certified sustainable by Protected Harvest, and it's a certification that you have to earn every year through audit. I mean, sustainability is used a lot,
Sure it is. Yeah.
And it's used for a lot of different products. I tend to really call it generational. We are generational farmers. I mean, that means sustainable, but generational farmers, because I firmly believe if you think generationally like we do, you cannot help but be sustainable.
Well, you said it before, and many farmers say that. You're looking ahead. It's the old Indian adage about, 7 or 10 generations down. You've got the land now. You made that point before, and you're going to give it, hopefully, to your kids. You want to give them something that's good, not something that's been poisoned or chemical.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And that's generational. That's generational farming.
For our listeners, if they would like to come visit you and just look you up online and learn a little bit about you, how would they do that?
LangeTwins.com. LangeTwins.com. Easy to find. Lodi, California.
Thanks for coming to Milwaukee. Thanks for coming to the studio and hanging out for a little while. And thanks for bringing your wines. We're going to get to taste them in a minute. So.
Okay.
Let's go pull some corks.
We appreciate your time.
Learn more by visiting LangeTwins.com.
Thanks for listening, and remember to like us on Facebook. Also, check out our YouTube channel.
Life Between the Vines is produced at Fifth Floor Recording Company in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Produced and edited by Ray Pfister. Theme song and original music written and recorded by Tim Dondarevo. Our host is Kay Paskoff. Web design by Jenny Holland. Our graphics and website specialist is Lawton Hall. Our web geek is Dan Gieshin. Photos by Jeanette Hernyak. Copyright 2016.